So the blues is based on a 1-4-5 progression, which is probably something that a lot of you have heard. You've heard that term. Okay, so if I play the 5th fret on the top string, on the 6th string, that happens to be an A note. And we are going to call that the 1, okay? Now, if I move to the next string on the same fret, that happens to be a D note, okay? And we are going to call that the 4. 1, 4. And then if we travel to the 7th fret, that happens to be an E note, and we're going to call that the 5. 1, 4, 5, okay? Visually, that's all you need to know, just the shape, the pattern. 1, 4, 5. You can think of it as an L sort of lying on its backside or something, okay? So 1, 4, 5. 1, 4, 5. And no matter where you move that on the guitar, that's a 1, 4, 5. So if I start at the 3rd fret, I'd have 3 different notes, of course. I'd have a G, a C, and a D. But that progression, that shape, is still a 1, 4, 5. So let's go back to the 5th fret, what we started with. So we're playing a 1, 4, 5, and the notes are A, D, and E. We will get into why those are called the 1, the 4, and the 5 after we just do the basics here, okay? So if I start on that first note again, the 5th fret on the top string, and I play a power chord shape, a standard power chord shape, which most people know, I am playing that power chord based on what would be the 1. So I'm playing a power chord off of the 1. Okay, now if I play a standard Chuck Berry or a boogie pattern right there, that means that I am playing the boogie pattern off of the 1 because it's based on that note. That's the root of the whole thing, and I'm just boogieing along, okay? Now, if I move to the 4, which as we said earlier is on the next string on the 5th fret, make my power chord shape there, and even play the boogie pattern, now I'm playing it off of the 4. So we're going to move from the 1 to the 4 using that boogie pattern. See that I moved back to the 1. So that's the way the blues works. You play the 1 chord for a certain amount of time, 4 times or 8 times, depending on what pattern you're playing. And then you move it to the 4 chord and you play it half as much. So if you played it 8 times, you're going to play it 4. If you played it 4 times, you're going to play it 2. And then you move it back to the 1 chord and you play it for half that amount as well, half the amount of the first time. So if you played it 8 times, you're going to play it 4. So in this case, what I just did, just to clarify that, is I played it off of the 1 chord 8 times. I moved to the 4 chord and I played it 4 times. And then I moved it back to the 1 chord for another 4 times. Now we said we had a 1, 4, 5 progression, right? So now we're going to move to the 5 and form that same power chord shape. There's the boogie pattern. And we're going to play it off of the 5. So we're going to play it 2 times. And then we're going to move it back to the 4 chord and play it 2 times. And then we're going to finally move it back to the 1 and play some kind of a turnaround. And there's a plethora of blues turnarounds out there. You could do something like this. Or you could do an actual single note turnaround. But if you notice, either way, you're getting back to the 5 chord. That's why it's called the turnaround. It makes it sound like you're ready to start the whole thing over again. Okay, so that's a 1-4-5 progression. Okay, so let's talk about adding chords to the mix. Okay, we want to get some basic blues chords going on. We're in the key of A. That's what we've been playing all of this stuff in. So if you are new to chords, then I'll walk you through this nice and slowly, and so you can make your chords sound the best they can be. If you're already acquainted with playing some basic chords, you might know these three already. But the first chord that we're going to use is called an A7. Nice bluesy sounding chord, and you can play this a couple of ways. You can play it with your first two fingers, or you can play it with your middle two fingers. I think for this particular musical exercise, the two middle fingers is probably the best. Okay, so I am in the second fret on the fourth string from the bottom, the D string. Okay, now the next string is open, the G string is open, and then my ring finger is on the second fret on the second from the bottom string, the second string, the B string. And that is an A7 chord. Again, if you're new to playing chords, you want to make sure that you're on the tips of your fingers, and you want to make sure that you're clearing the neck underneath here so that the bottom string, the first string, doesn't get muted out, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to start with the A string, the fifth string, the second from the top, and we're going to pick down 4 strings. And then we're going to swing down to the first string, the bottom string, and we're going to pick upward 3 strings. That's a form of cross picking, it's called, and that's a very good habit to develop. It's the blues again, 1-4-5 changes, so we're going to play that chord 4 times, and then we're going to switch to a D7 chord, okay? Now D7 chord, this is why I chose this fingering, because I think this probably makes it the easiest to play. Take these 2 fingers and slip them down 1 set of strings, okay? So we're slipping down to the third from the bottom string, and the bottom string, the first string at the second fret as well. But we're going to add the first finger to the first fret on the second string, the second from the bottom, the B string. Okay? So now we're picking from the third from the top string, picking 4 again, and then we're going to wind up hitting that bottom string again with the upstrokes coming up. 1, 2, 3. And of course we will play that chord twice, okay? And then we move back to the A7 and we play it twice. So again, we're playing the A7 4 times. We're playing the D7 2 times. And then we're coming back and playing the A7 2 times. Now we're going to add the third chord, okay? The third chord is called an E7. These are all 7th chords. So your second finger is on the second fret, on the second from the top string, the 5th string, the A string. And your first finger is on the third from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, in the first fret, the G string, okay? And this is going to be a full 6-string chord. Once again, be sure to get on the tips of your fingers as much as you can, and make sure the palm of your hand is opened up so you don't mute out any strings. And we're going to play this. Okay, so I started with the very top string and I picked down 3. Then I swung down to the bottom and came up 4. And you'll play that 1 time. You'll go back to the D7. And then, of course, we'll play the turnaround. Now, of course, the turnaround is just going to be played using the chords that we're working with, but it takes the place of this. So what's going to happen is we're going to move back to the A7 chord. So I played the A7 chord one time, and then the E7 chord, 4 downstrokes, just quarter notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so let me play the whole thing for you, and then we'll do it with the bass and drums as usual. Here we go. There we go. So let's go ahead and try it with the drums and bass.